Ever have one of those moments? You're trying hard, chasing a goal, but there's just this nagging voice inside.
Oh, absolutely. That little voice saying, maybe you're just not cut out for this.
Exactly. Maybe you don't have the talent. It's tough, right? You hit a bump and suddenly you're questioning everything.
It is. It feels really personal,
Hmm.
like that setback defines you. But what if that feeling isn't the whole story?
Go on.
What if our actual beliefs, about our own abilities are playing a massive role in how we even react to those bumps?
Okay, yeah, let's really dig into that because today we're diving deep into something that can honestly change how you see, well, everything. Mindset.
That's right. We're leaning heavily on the fantastic work of Carol Dweck from her book, Mindset.
Our goal here is to unpack some key ideas from her research. We want to help you understand how your own core beliefs might be holding you back or maybe even pushing you forward without you realizing it.
Think of it like getting a new lens to view your potential through, moving away from feeling stuck, towards seeing how you can actually grow and learn.
So let's start right at the beginning. Dweck talks about these two fundamental mindsets, fixed and growth. What's the basic difference there?
Okay, so fundamentally, a fixed mindset is basically the belief that your core qualities like intelligence, talent, they're just fixed traits. You've got a certain amount and that's pretty much it.
Okay, fixed, like set in stone.
Pretty much. Now, the growth mindset, that's the belief that these same abilities, intelligence, talent, they can actually be developed through, dedication, hard work, learning from mistakes.
That sounds a lot more hopeful, actually. Can you give us an example, maybe something concrete to picture the difference?
Sure. Dweck uses this great analogy with kids and puzzles. Imagine offering kids a choice. Do an easy puzzle they've already solved or try a harder, new one. Kids with a more fixed mindset often choose the easy one. Why? Because it guarantees success. They look smart, they don't risk making mistakes, which we might see as proof they aren't smart.
Ah, so it's about looking good, proving what they already have. What about the other kids?
The ones leaning towards a growth mindset, they often jump at that harder puzzle. They see it as a chance to learn, to stretch themselves. Dweck even quotes one kid saying, "I love a challenge." For them, the learning itself is the reward.
Wow, yeah. That simple choice says a lot, doesn't it? It reminds me of that story Dweck told about her sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Wilson. That seemed like a real-world example of fostering a fixed mindset.
Oh, absolutely. Mrs. Wilson believed IQ scores were basically destiny. She literally seated students in the classroom according to their IQ scores.
Seriously? Wow.
Yeah, highest IQs got privileges, like carrying the flag. The message, intended or not, was clear. Intelligence is fixed, and the goal is to prove you have it, not necessarily to develop it. Imagine the pressure.
And the irony is, the guy who invented the IQ test, Alfred Binet, he had the complete opposite idea, right?
Exactly. Binet created the test to find kids in Paris who were struggling so they could get extra help and educational support to get back on track. He believed intelligence could absolutely change with the right teaching and effort. It was meant to be a starting point for growth, not a final label.
So this fixed mindset, it creates this constant underlying need to prove yourself because you're scared of being found out as, I don't know, deficient.
Precisely. Every situation, every test, every challenge becomes a judgment. Do I have enough? Failure feels like it reveals a fundamental lack.
Whereas the growth mindset, it's coming from a different place entirely.
Totally different. It starts from the idea that your true potential is actually unknown, unknowable maybe. It believes that amazing things can happen through years of passion, toil, training, things you couldn't have predicted at the start.
Dweck mentioned some incredible examples of people who weren't seen as anything special early on, but achieved amazing things.
Yeah, think about Charles Darwin.
Yeah.
Or Tolstoy, apparently quite ordinary as kids. Or Ben Hogan, the golf legend, supposedly clumsy and uncoordinated when he was young.
Wow.
Even people like photographer Cindy Sherman, who failed her first photo course, or Geraldine Page, the actress, who was told she had no talent and should just give up. It shows that potential often unfolds over time through dedication.
That's really encouraging. It challenges that whole born genius idea. Okay, so how do these mindsets play out when we face, like, just a bad day? Dweck had that scenario.
Right, the scenario of, say, you get a bad grade, then a parking ticket, and then a friend seems kind of dismissive, a trifecta of frustration.
Yeah, we've all had days like that. How does the fixed mindset typically react?
Someone deep in a fixed mindset might feel crushed, helpless. They might internalize it all. See, I'm stupid. Nobody likes me. They might just want to hide, give up on the day, maybe distract themselves without actually tackling the problems. It can become a spiral.
Okay, that sounds familiar, unfortunately. How does the growth mindset approach that same bad day?
Well, they're not going to enjoy it, obviously. But their approach is different. The bad grade. Okay, what did I miss? What can I study differently next time? The parking ticket. Annoying, but okay, pay it. Be more careful next time. The friend. Maybe I should talk to them, see what's up.
So it's not about not feeling bad, but about what you do with that feeling.
Exactly. It's about seeing challenges as things to be dealt with, learned from. It fosters resilience. They don't see setbacks as a permanent verdict on who they are.
And the really liberating part is Dweck saying these mindsets. They're just beliefs, and beliefs can change.
That's the crucial takeaway. They aren't wired in permanently. Recognizing the patterns is the first step. You start seeing it in yourself, in others. It can be a real eye-opener.
She even gives us some questions to ask ourselves, doesn't she, to see where we might stand.
Yeah, basically asking, do you believe your intelligence is something you can really change? What about your basic personality? Can that evolve? And it's interesting because you might have a growth mindset about, say, learning a new skill at work, but a really fixed one about your artistic talent, or vice versa.
That's a great point. So for you listening right now, maybe just take a second. Which mindset sounds more like you? And does it change depending on the area of your life? Okay, let's shift gears slightly to another huge piece of this effort. How do the two mindsets view effort itself? Because it seems like they see it very differently.
Oh, fundamentally different. In a fixed mindset, needing to exert effort is often seen, well, negatively. It's almost like proof you aren't naturally talented or smart. The thinking goes, if you were really good, this would be easy.
So having to try hard feels a bit shameful almost, like admitting you don't just have it.
Exactly. But the growth mindset, it flips that completely. Effort isn't the enemy. Effort is the path. It's how you become smarter, how you get talented. Effort is the engine of growth.
You mentioned that violinist earlier, Nadja Sonnenberg. Her story really seemed to capture that struggle with effort, didn't it?
It really did. She was this amazing young prodigy, tons of raw talent. But she had some bad technical habits. When she got to Juilliard, her teacher pointed them out. But Nadja initially resisted putting in the hard graft to fix them. She relied on her natural gift.
What happened?
Well, other students, maybe less naturally gifted but incredibly diligent, started catching up, even surpassing her. And that triggered a huge crisis for Nadja. Her fixed belief that needing effort meant she wasn't truly talented almost made her quit. She had to eventually embrace the effort to truly fulfill her potential.
Wow. It's a powerful reminder that talent needs effort to flourish. It's not enough on its own.
You know, it kind of reminds me of that movie Groundhog Day. It's fiction, of course, but think about it.
Right.
Bill Murray's character is stuck reliving the same day. At first he's miserable, right? But eventually he starts using that repetition, that effort, to learn piano, to learn ice sculpting, to understand people better. He grows enormously through sheer repeated effort and learning within that loop.
That's a brilliant analogy. He literally uses effort over time to transform his situation and himself.
And that points to something else. People with a growth mindset often find genuine joy in the process, in the struggle, in the effort itself. It's not just about the final trophy or the A grade.
Whereas the fixed mindset is more focused on the outcome, the validation.
Often, yes. For many growth-minded people who reach the top, getting there is almost a happy side effect of their passion for the process, their love of learning and improving. It wasn't necessarily about being better than everyone else.
That's a really interesting distinction. So for you listening again, what's your relationship with effort? Is it something you embrace as the way forward or something you kind of dread because it feels like it exposes a lack of innate ability? Something to think about. Okay, final key lesson for today. How these beliefs actually shape our results and, this is fascinating, the hidden dangers of certain kinds of praise.
Yeah, this is where it gets really practical and honestly sometimes surprising. Because a fixed mindset believes abilities are static. Every evaluation feels, well, permanent. It can create this intense pressure for immediate perfection.
Like that little girl, Loretta, you mentioned, the kindergarten story.
Exactly. Loretta moves to the U.S., takes a test shortly after arriving, and gets placed in the lower kindergarten class, not the gifted one. Just like that, based on one test in maybe not ideal circumstances. For a child absorbing fixed mindset messages, that label can feel incredibly defining, incredibly early.
And that need for validation, it can lead to some weird dynamics around success and failure, can it?
Definitely. Success can fuel a sense of superiority. My fixed traits are just better. But failure can be absolutely devastating. It hits that core question. If I'm only worthy when I succeed based on my fixed talent, what am I when I fail?
That story about the Martins and their son Robert was, wow, pretty
Yeah,
intense.
really illustrates the fragility. They shower 3-year-old Robert with praise for being brilliant for every little thing. But then he doesn't get into the #1 preschool.
Just a preschool application.
Right. And suddenly, their view of him just flips. He's no longer their special, brilliant boy. He's a disappointment. Because in their fixed view, this failure revealed a fundamental flaw in him at age 3.
That's quite sobering,
Yeah.
how conditional that validation becomes.
Now, contrast that with, say, the football player Dweck mentions, who makes a huge mistake in a big game. Instead of letting it define him, what does he do?
He learns from it, right?
Exactly. He figures out what went wrong, adjusts, and then plays lights out in the second half, helping his team win. He took control, used the failure as data for improvement. That's the growth mindset in action.
Seeing mistakes as information, not condemnation.
And sometimes the stakes are tragically high. The story of the famous French chef, Bernard Loiseau,
Oh, right. That was heartbreaking.
pioneer of Nouvelle Cuisine, 3 Michelin stars. But then there were rumors his restaurant might get downgraded slightly in one guide, and he apparently took his own life. It seems his entire identity, his self-worth, was so tightly wound up in that external validation, that fixed measure of perfection, that even a potential small slip felt catastrophic.
Such a stark example of the vulnerability created by that fixed mindset.
And it can show up in quieter ways, too, like Dweck noted, sometimes feeling diminished when your partner succeeds, like success is a zero-sum game.
Which ties into that fixed mindset idea of prizing the natural, right? The person who makes it look effortless.
Yes. There's this romantic notion of innate genius, effortless achievement. The story of Seabiscuit, the racehorse, is a great counterpoint.
How so?
Well, a growth mindset sees Seabiscuit and his team as this incredible story of perseverance, belief, and hard work transforming underdogs. A fixed mindset might just see flawed individuals trying hard, maybe missing the deeper point about the power of effort and belief to fundamentally change capabilities.
And that explains why sometimes, in a fixed mindset, showing too much effort can feel risky.
Exactly. If you're supposed to be a natural, then sweating and struggling might undermine that image. It might expose that you don't just have it effortlessly.
Okay, this brings us to praise. This was one of the most counterintuitive parts for me. Praising ability, like telling kids they're smart, can actually be bad.
It sounds wrong, doesn't it? But Dweck's research is pretty compelling. When kids are praised for intelligence, wow, you're so smart, they often become less likely to choose challenging tasks later. They don't want to risk doing something difficult and failing, because that might make them look not smart. They want to protect that label. So they stick to the easy stuff where they know they'll succeed and keep getting that smart praise. It can also make them crumble more easily after a setback.
Wow. Okay, so if praising intelligence can backfire, what should we be praising?
Effort. Praise the process. The strategies, the perseverance, the focus, the improvement. Things like, wow, you worked really hard on that problem, or I liked how you kept trying different ways to solve that, or you really stuck with it even when it got tough.
So you're praising things they can actually control and develop.
Exactly. That kind of praise fosters resilience. It encourages them to embrace challenges, because challenges are where the effort pays off. It reinforces the idea that abilities grow through hard work.
That really reframes things. So for everyone listening, think about the praise you've received, and maybe more importantly, the praise you give. Is it focused on fixed traits or on the process and effort? Could be something to consciously shift.
These are really powerful ideas, aren't they?
Yeah.
They can genuinely change how you approach, well, almost everything.
Absolutely. So let's try and pull this all together. Mindset, fundamentally, is the lens we use to see ourselves, our challenges, our potential.
We've talked about fixed versus growth, believing abilities are set versus believing they can be developed. We've looked at effort, seeing it as a sign of weakness versus the key to growth. And we've seen how these beliefs shape our reactions, our outcomes, even how we should think about praise.
Okay, so the big question now. How do we actually do this? What are some practical steps listeners can take starting today to nudge themselves towards more of a growth mindset?
Great question. And remember, it is a nudge, a process, not flipping a switch overnight. But here are some things to try. First, actively try to embrace challenges. See them not as threats, but as opportunities to learn. Reframe that initial, this is hard, into, okay, what can I learn here?
Okay, embrace challenges. What's next?
Second, reframe setbacks. When things don't go well, instead of seeing it as failure or proof you can't do it, see it as information. Ask, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time?
Turn failures into feedback.
Yeah.
Got it. Third,
Value effort. Consciously recognize and appreciate the process of working hard. See effort not as a burden, but as the path to mastery. Remind yourself that struggling is part of learning.
okay, value effort. Number 4.
Listen to yourself talk. Become aware of that fixed mindset voice if it pops up. The I'm just not good at math or I'll never be creative voice. And when you hear it, challenge it. Gently push back with a growth mindset perspective. Maybe I'm not good at math yet, or I can learn how to be more creative if I practice.
Catch and challenge those fixed thoughts.
Yeah.
Good one. 5.
Focus on the process, not just the outcome. Celebrate the small steps, the effort you put in, the progress you make along the way. Not just whether you got the final win or perfect result. Enjoy the learning journey itself.
Right. Appreciate the journey.
Seek out constructive criticism. Instead of dreading feedback, try to see it as a gift, valuable information that can help you improve. Ask for specific feedback on how you can grow.
See feedback is helpful. Okay, 7.
Reflect on past experiences through this new lens. Think about challenges you've overcome. What did you learn? How did you grow? Recognizing your past growth reinforces the belief that you can grow in the future.
Learn from the past. Okay, and maybe one last actionable thing.
Yeah, maybe pick something, just one small thing that you've always wanted to do but were afraid you wouldn't be good at, and just start. Make a tiny plan. Focus purely on the process of learning it, with zero pressure for immediate perfection. Just engage with it.
I love that. Just start. Focus on learning.
Because ultimately, that capacity for growth, it's in all of us. Taking these kinds of small, consistent steps to shift your mindset, it really can lead to profound and lasting change. It's about embracing that journey of learning and really becoming.
That is such a hopeful and empowering place to end. Thank you so much for walking us through these ideas today. And for everyone listening, we really hope this deep dive into mindset has given you some food for thought, maybe some practical tools you can start using right away on your own path of growth and